Let's take a look at some information and charts on Bancor for Brave New Coin. So Bancor has cleaned up its UI relatively recently, cleaned up its platform, basically has adopted the UI of every other swapping platform. Bancor is a DEX, has a governance token, has a burning mechanic, has staking, every buzzword we can imagine, really in a good way. It's doing the right things. These are the pools that offer varying rewards in an attempt to mitigate against impermanent loss. All the pairs are in BNT as far as I know, as far as the pooling options here, and 71%, 78% staked. So fairly easy plug and play system, just like all the other pools and dexes. And it looks like their biggest pools are ETH, Matic, USDC, BTC, Link, USDT. So a lot of stablecoin pools here that are high in volume, at least recently, past 24 hours, as well as just crazy movers like Matic and the usual suspects like ETH and BTC. If we look at the metrics under the hood, Bancor had an all-time high in volume this month. It has had all-time highs in volume for the past 5 or 6 months. So basically since January, when everything else popped off for DeFi, Bancor volumes have exploded. The more that all of these dexes can route through each other or talk to each other for liquidity, the better. And a rising tide definitely raises all boats. And as a consumer, fees will go down, gas will go down. It's just better for everybody. The more options we have for routing trades. You know, when I'm on Enzyme, sometimes my trades get routed through Bancor, sometimes they get routed through ZRX, sometimes they get routed through Paraswap or Uni, Sushi. You know, I don't care where it's going. I just want the best price I can get at the cheapest cost, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Trade counts way up for Bancor. So everything's pointing users in all-time high. Everything's pointing up and to the right. That's exactly what you want to see on a DEX. I care about users. I care about volume. I care about fees being low. I care about pooling and rewards. This is their burning mechanic, which has basically kept the total supply kind of leveled out for BNT. So ideally, as users and traders and swaps continue to increase and the BNT supply stays relatively stable, there's potential for growth in token value, token price appreciation. There was one more chart down here that showed total volume, burning amounts way up. Much like Maker, I mean, they're burning a ton of BNT. So everything looks great on that front. Gross value locked has dropped from 2.4 to 1.4, so not that big of a drop from all-time highs, but definitely down. Some of that is price depreciation in the assets themselves. Some of that is just people pooling, removing funds for pooling, that sort of thing. Trading volume, all-time highs, up and to the right. Transactions, all-time highs, up and to the right. Users, all-time highs, up and to the right. So it's hard to be bearish on the platform. At the very least, when you see numbers like this, it's hard to be bearish on DEXs. Nothing really exploded. I mean, it was more over the past week, 2 weeks. ETH had trouble handling the transactions and the gas fees exploded because of all the liquidations all at once. Hopefully that is mitigated with layer 2 solutions eventually. But, you know, Bancor didn't explode, Uni didn't explode, ZRX didn't explode. None of these DAI was stable, USDT is fine, you know, USDC was okay. So after all is said and done, the infrastructure looks fine. People are still trading, you know, nothing's destroyed. There isn't some mass liquidity risk. It was all kind of a one and done event. So as terrible as that was, it was sort of an isolated incident in that particular day. It's not like just rolling liquidations or anything like that. If I'm looking for silver linings here, right? Obviously the Bancor price is way down. And if we compare Bancor to everything else, it's just below Curve and 7-day volume. Curve is just mainly a stablecoin swap and pooling platform. And we can see the 7-day volume on Bancor versus Curve. ZRX will route through Bancor. And like I said, everybody kind of talks to everybody now, which is best case scenario, certainly. And it looks like May 19th. Sorry, it was all-time high volume across the board as far as day is concerned. And obviously May, all-time high volume ever per month for DEXs. And Bancor is the dark pink purple slice down there. So volume clearly picking up month over month for Bancor, and market share is growing on Bancor. So hard to be bearish when you're seeing numbers like that, regardless of what's going on with the token price. And here's market cap over annualized revenue. This is 30-day rolling, so it's going to change and adjust. All these are going to slightly shift over time. If Bancor starts burning more than they have, than they're minting as far as tokens, then that's going to change this as well. That's something to keep in mind. Bancor also has a burning mechanic, and it's hard to know what any of this means exactly any given day, but it's one metric to look at when you're trying to compare maybe value versus stuff that doesn't have value versus stuff that isn't even on this chart, like Link or Band, that doesn't even have revenue. That's something to consider as well. When people are talking about quote unquote productive assets, this is part of that conversation, certainly. So Bancor is on the higher end of this group, but among all like DeFi stuff, I'm sure it's on the lower end. Even Synthetics is probably on the lower end of everything as a group. Switching to technicals, 5200, EMA, RSI, VPVR, monthly pivots. So we're below or near the 200-day moving average for Bancor, in between monthly pivots. And really the biggest issue with the potential downside here is the previous accumulation zones or the previous volume supports. This is still potentially a 50% drop, even though it doesn't look super bearish yet. Obviously it's a 70% drop from the top, right? That's going to sting any trend metric on the bull side, but this isn't some sort of extended downside just yet. Things to watch for would be a bearish 5200 cross. Watch for a break of any lower lows, especially if you're not seeing a bull div on RSI. If we get a lower low here without a bull div, then that just says bearish momentum should continue, and I'd expect to test the range between $1 and $2 basically, or $1 and $3. Ultimately, this should not see lower lows beyond $1 based on the volume profile. Still, it's a mega drawdown from 450, obviously. So it's a trying time trend-wise for the BNT USD pair. If we look at the cloud is also telling you it's below the cloud. It is in bearish territory, and you want to be on the long side again when we're above the cloud. So it's probably got 30, 60 days to figure that out. Here we saw multiple inverted head and shoulders fractals. Here's a mini one here, and this whole thing is arguably an inverted head and shoulders that led to this edge-to-edge move through the cloud that eventually led to this bull trend. We had an attempt at a TK cross recross up here, but the market had other plans and dropped everything together. So if this can establish a return currently above $6 is what I'd be looking at for bullish trend continuation. If it can establish that, then we're on the right track for additional upside. But right now it's probably stuck ranging between the lows at 350 and just below 6 at the cloud here. It's probably just going to range until it makes a decision. And again, ultimately you do not want to see it back down here at 450 highs, obviously. BNT-BTC looks less bearish than the USD pair. It's probably going to hold between this range of 10K to 20K sats. Yearly pivots are here, decent volume profile here. 200-day moving average is here, the cloud is here. No bull div on RSI just yet. But overall, this is just a mega range right now. Potentially cup and handle, but that's probably broken at this point. And the BNT ETH pair looks even more tragic in trying to figure out what the heck's going on here. It's really been unable to hold on to any of these highs, despite having this very large W, double bottom. It broke up, but then just immediately got rejected. So it's probably going to Eiffel Tower back down to this 1300 zone based on volume. It broke the high volume support area, so it doesn't look like it's set to reverse anytime soon. I mean, this chart is a nightmare to try to trade. If you're range trading this, you're probably buying down here and selling anything above 3,400, whatever this is. I don't know, on ETH. I don't know what do people call this? It's not sats for BTC. 0034 ETH. So it's gone from just in this perpetual bear cycle to sort of changing the platform, implementing burning mechanics, adjusting the UI, and still is stuck in this range. So I applaud you if you're trading this profitably, but it is a mess to actually trade relative to some of this other stuff because you have to make very quick decisions on getting in and out on a chart that is a giant roller coaster ride. So overall, like all the dexes, Bancor is doing really well. Volume-wise, it's on the right track. Every metric I can see is up and to the right. Users, volume, TVL's down slightly from all-time highs, but doesn't look too bad. And trend metrics across the board on everything right now are going to look bearish. So definitely watch for any lower lows, watch for bull divs, and watch for bullish reversal patterns down here. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund on Enzyme.finance and the managed DeFi portfolio. This one's more TA than FA. This one's more fundamental analysis than technical analysis. You can participate in this by depositing ETH or USDC into a smart contract, and then it gives me the ability to use those funds in trades. It's basically a copy trading type of mechanic. And you can see AUM, allocations, all the trades I make on all the dexes. Mostly these are through Paraswap on Enzyme, but it can be any dex based on whatever the liquidity is or fees are at the time. We do have a small allocation of Bancor in here as well. And the DeFi fund obviously took a massive hit over the past couple weeks, and we had been doing okay. And that's the hard part about this. The DeFi stuff, when it goes plus or minus 100%, 50% in a day, and there's intraday ranges of 25 to 50%, there's going to be a lot of volatility here, so keep that in mind. This is not for the weak-stomached, the weak of heart. This is definitely, the ETH-BTC fund is definitely the more stable of the two. So the risk reward here is just huge. Not sure why, but good for Melon, up 40% today. I'll have to look at that after the video. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.